Well, hello, my name's Louise Savage. A very, very warm welcome to my channel on this beautiful sunny day. I have a massive book haul to report back on, so you might as well make yourself a cup of tea, sit back, relax, because this could take some time. And also, bless him, my lovely Simon, he gave me a tip ages ago to put little post-it notes inside the book so that I would know where I'd got them from, which I'm so glad he did, because otherwise I think some of these I bought them so long ago. I think this goes right back to May. I haven't checked when I last did a haul, but I think some of these books I bought in May. Where are we now? It's the end of August, beginning of September. So yeah, I will be as surprised as you are by by what I've got in these lovely pile of books. So first up it was actually a gift from Simon. So he knows that I loved Normal People by Sally Rooney when it first came out. And this is I think her most recent novel, Intermezzo. It's always lovely, isn't it, to have a hardback. Oh, 2024. I don't think she's come up with anything since then. And I haven't read, there's been at least one book in between, hasn't there? And I haven't read that either. So I'm really hoping that I enjoy this as much as I enjoyed Normal People, because I've heard really varying things about her intermediate books. The demands of other people do not dissolve, they only multiply. More and more complex, more difficult, which is another way she thinks of saying more life, more and more of life. I'm not even sure what that means, but I do like the cover. I really like the cover. And I like the title as well. Aside from the fact that they are brothers, Peter and Ivan Kubek seem to have little in common. One's a Dublin lawyer and the other is a competitive chess player. Oh, that's interesting. So I like the idea that there may be some chess involved in this book. So yes, there we go. Sally Rooney's Intermezzo. I'm going to pile them up on here. Can you actually see that? Oh, just about, maybe. Oh, if I do it that way. There we are, yes. Next up, and again, I shall just inspect. Yes, this is another gift from Simon. This is Poor Ghost by Gabriel Flynn, and I love that cover. And actually, it wasn't until I saw it on the screen that I'd quite realised that was a hand and somebody's hair. I don't know why I hadn't clocked that. I just thought it was some sort of abstract picture. And I really like this sort of minty green. Anyway, it's described on the back as compulsive, razor sharp and deeply tender. Again, I don't know anything about this, although Simon will probably tell me that he's told me all about it before, but I've just forgotten. When Luca drops out of his prestigious PhD programme and moves back home to Manchester, he thinks he'll take some time to consider his choices. The failed love affair that ended in disaster, the pursuit of an academic life that gave him nothing but a strong sense of failure. Well, I really like the fact that this book is set in Manchester. That's a city, a UK city that I know quite well. And the title intrigues me. I wonder whether there will be a ghost or whether it's a description of his psychological state. But it looks like this is going to be a novel of self-reflection. It does describe it as sharp. It describes it as darkly funny, deeply intelligent. So yeah, that looks interesting. And I just love the cover. This is another one from Simon. Absolutely beautiful cover on this book. Open Heaven by Simon Hewitt. Sean Hewitt. Let me get this right. And again, these are books that I'm coming to sort of pretty cold. I can't remember anything about them, as you can probably tell, but that's fine. It's described as a beautiful novel. How a first love can shape a whole life. It made my heart hurt in the best of ways. I hope this is another sort of David Nichols vibe in terms of like feeling sort of very positive about love. On the cusp of adulthood, James dreams of another life far away from his small village. As he contends with the expectations of his family, his burgeoning desire, an ache for autonomy, tenderness and sex threatens to unravel his shy exterior. Then he meets Luke, unkempt and handsome, charismatic and impulsive. I think we can see where this is headed. So yeah, that looks like a really joyous celebration of love. Let's hope doesn't end in tragedy. It describes it as elegiac, so hopefully not. And then I have another gift from Simon, The Image of Her by Simone de Beauvoir. Now, to my shame, I think I've only read one book by Simone de Beauvoir. It's probably on the shelves somewhere. And it was many years ago, and I can't remember an awful lot about it. So this is a lovely vintage edition. I love the statement on the back. I would rather be vile than ridiculous. Simone de Beauvoir, obviously well known for her feminism. A profound and compelling novel about the requirement to be perfect without losing sight of yourself by the iconic feminist of the 20th century. It doesn't tell you much about the plot. Oh, here we go. Laurence, I'm guessing, because Simone de Beauvoir was French. I should have read this for Books in Translation Month, shouldn't I? Laurence is a woman who appears to live an ideal existence. Her life features all the trappings of 1960s Parisian bourgeoisie. Money, a handsome husband, 2 daughters and a lover. Oh God, sounds exhausting. She also has a successful career as an advertising copywriter. I don't know how she'd had time to breathe. Though her mind unbidden writes copy while she's at home and dreams of domesticity in the office. That's interesting, isn't it? So she's not feeling content wherever she is. She wants to be elsewhere. But Laurence is a woman whose happiness was relegated long ago by the expectation of perfection. Relentlessly torn by competing needs of her family, it's only when her 10-year-old daughter Catherine starts to vocalise her despair about the unfairness of the world that Laurence resists. That's interesting, isn't it? It's translated by Lauren Elkin. Oh yeah, no, I wonder when I'll get round to this. It's interesting with these book calls, isn't it? Sometimes it might be another 3 years before I actually pick up the book to read it, but hey. Oh, now, I remember, again, another book that Simon gave me, but I think that he said this was really funny. I think it's about a mother and son, I want to say. I don't know why he might have bought me a book about mother and son. Realising he and she are the very worst kind of people. A middle-aged man embarks on a dubious road trip through Switzerland with his 80-year-old mother. There you go. Well, I'm not 80. I've got a good few decades to go yet, Simon, I'll have you know. Traversing... Oh, hang on. She's recently been discharged from a mental institution. This sounds really interesting. Traversing the country in a hired cab, they attempt to give away the wealth she's amassed from investing in the arms industry. Oh, God, this sounds amazing and potentially very, very funny. And don't you just love that picture on the front? They're both absolutely zonked out in a ski resort on deck chairs. Hey, well, I think that's going to be an absolute roller coaster. Now, I've heard a lot about this. I think this is one I actually bought myself. Now, has my system failed me here? Because if I have put a sticker in there, it's disappeared. But I think no, I don't know. So this is on the Calculation of Volume by Solvej, Balle. And the interesting thing about this is that there are now, I think, at least 3, possibly 4 volumes of this. And I haven't read any of them yet, and I've seen a lot of love for these books on Instagram. It seems so odd to me now how one can be so unsettled by the improbable when we know that our entire existence is founded on freak occurrences and improbable coincidences, that we wouldn't be here at all if it weren't for these curious twists of fate. I think, is this a book where, yes, every morning the protagonist wakes up to the 18th of November. She no longer expects to wake up to the 19th, and she no longer remembers the 17th as if it were yesterday. So this is a story about a woman who's sort of on this kind of Groundhog Day type loop. And I don't know much more about it, but I am really intrigued by that whole concept. And yeah, I look forward to reading it. I love these editions, these Faber and Faber editions. They remind me of, well, Faber and Faber used to publish a lot of poetry, didn't they? Still do, I think. and it's got that lovely feel to it, that luxurious book cover that you can use as a bookmark as well. Very nice. And then I know exactly where I acquired this. This is Lara by Bernadine Evaristo, and this was in my Women's Prize goodie bag at the end of the festival in June. And this was her debut, it says debut novel, but of course it's a novel that, like, oh my goodness, The Emperor's Babe, Bernadine Evaristo wrote this novel in poetry and poetic form. Now, The Emperor's Babe is one of my favourite books, so I really look forward to reading this. And I think this might have sort of been republished, and it's the story. It's semi-autobiographical. I think it's a story about her. It's either her parents or her own childhood and her family history. Yeah. So I don't know if that's a photograph. I think that's a photograph of Bernadine's parents on the front. So I'll be really interested to read that. I've thoroughly enjoyed, Bernadine's somebody who can write wonderful poetry, wonderful prose, fiction, non-fiction, and it'll be very interesting to go back and read the very first of her published works and see how I feel about that now I know about all her other books. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. And then this is The King's Mother, which I know I picked up by Annie Garthwaite, which I know I picked up in bookshop in Bridgnorth, which is my local bookshop. And I read, early this year, I read Cecily by Annie Garthwaite, and this is a sequel to that book. So by the time this sequel comes about, she's the king's mother rather than the wife of the king. Or potential king. So this starts in 1461. Through blood and battle, Edward has gained England's throne. Cecily, having piloted her family's rise to power, stands beside him as England's first king's mother. So yeah, I think I absolutely loved Cecily. I really, really enjoyed that book. Really, really good example of how to write historical fiction very, very well, and how to wear the detailed research that goes into these books very, very lightly. And I think that's going to be a rollicking good read. And I love the sort of tagline on the back, 4 mothers, 1 crown. And I like the fact that in this type of historical fiction, we're kind of putting the women, we sort of have this very false idea, I think, often, of what lives were like, for women, some women in the past. That the idea that women were always powerless, etc., at various periods in history. But it's very clear from reading these books that there were some women who managed to wield an awful lot of power. So I have in my hands now, and I've just, oh yes, I know when I got this. So I bought this book in the National Trust charity shop at Tresillick. Is it Tresillick or Trelisic? Trelisic, in Cornwall on a recent family holiday down there. So I went down to Falmouth at the beginning of end of July it was, and went on a beautiful boat ride up the river to a National Trust property, really to go to the garden. But of course, what I hadn't realised is that it's got one of the biggest second-hand National Trust bookshops. So my daughter picked up loads of books, but I think maybe this might have been the only one that I bought. In fact, it was the only one that I bought. So this is Owen Shear's Resistance. Now, I read Owen Shear's novel, what's it called? Something about I Saw a Man, which still is very, very much in my head. I loved that book. It's a kind of thriller, a psychological thriller. This sounds like a very different type of novel. I'm going to have to put my glasses on because I'm not going to be able to read it otherwise. Bear with me. But I know it really intrigued me when I hadn't come across this anywhere before. It's 1944. D-Day has failed and the Nazis have invaded. This has been imagined before, but never as intensely as this. Superb. When Sarah Lewis, a 26-year-old farmer's wife, wakes to find her husband has disappeared, she discovers she's not the only one. All the men in the Welsh border valley of Elkin have gone. It's 1944, and following the failed D-Day landings, a German counterattack has landed on British soil. Shortly after the men's disappearance, a German patrol arrives in the valley, and when Sarah begins an acquaintance with the patrol's commanding officer, both sides must decide whether to remain enemies or to come together in defiance of the war surrounding the valley. A gripping portrait of a community under siege. It's a moving story of unexpected, stop slobbering everywhere, love and friendship, and it just sounds utterly lovely and you know, a very, very interesting concept. I like it. I like the what-ifery behind this idea of the Nazi invasion. So yeah, very much look forward to reading that one as well. What a winter I'm going to have, snuggled up with all these books. And then actually I'm sort of going back in time now, because I finally with Simon made it to Beauvoir. Oh no, we made it to Beauvoir earlier this year, but this is the brand new Beauvoir in, I want to say, Chelsea in London. So we had to, obviously we were down in London for the Women's Prize, so we had to go and have a snoop round this brand new shop, and boy was it wonderful. And I treated myself to some books. So although somebody has sent me a lovely sloth book for our reading prompts, which is, I think, read a book that involves your favourite animal, and my favourite animal is a sloth. This one has been on my radar because of that prompt for some time, and I finally resisted the urge. No, I stopped resisting the urge to buy it. I thought, you know, it's such a lovely cover and it does sound really interesting. So this is by Larraquy, and I'm not sure, I think they're I want to say South American author. Yeah, born in Buenos Aires, Argentina in 1975. He's a novelist and screenwriter, and that's interesting because I think often people who write for screen write really interesting novels. So this is called the National Telepathy. In September 1933, the Peruvian rubber company delivers 19 indigenous people from the Amazon to businessman Amado Dam, intended for Argentina's first ethnographic theme park. Unexpected among the human cargo is an artifact harbouring a sloth with a fascinating yet terrifying secret: the ability to create erotically explosive telepathic connections between people. I mean, what ensues is a raucous satire of men's fear of women's bodies. It just sounds amazing. Like, it's going to go one way or the other, isn't it, this type of book? I'm either going to absolutely love it or it's going to irritate the pants off me, for want of a better expression. But yeah, I just think that sounds absolutely fascinating. And this book, I can't lie, I bought for, well, it was the cover and I mean, I love this colour blue. You will have observed that if you've been watching my channel for a while. It's a colour I quite often wear. And this is Lara and Elkin's Scaffolding, and also the whole idea of the scaffold, the title. I don't know whether it's to do with building scaffolds or the other sort. We've got a shopping bag with swans in, which, you know, is kind of irresistible. It described it on the back like a perfect French movie of a novel. Elegant, original, and often very funny. It's interesting. I seem to have a few books that might actually make me chortle. 2019. Oh, so this is a novel that's set over 2 time spans. Partly in 2019, with David taking a job in London and Anna left alone in their Paris apartment in August. It's very hot. And then 1972, Florence is finishing her degree in psychology and contemplating pregnancy, but Henry isn't sure he's ready for fatherhood. So it looks it looks at 2 different couples looking at different marital challenges. And yeah, I really like the sound of this, and I like the look of it a lot as well. I can't lie. Oh, sorry, that was a bit of a plonk. Now in here is a book that I have wanted to get to for ages, Small Boat by Vincent Delecroix. I've heard amazing things about this, absolutely love the cover. It was shortlisted for the International Booker Prize. In fact, quite a few books on this pile, I think, come from that very stable. It's described as a gut punch of a novel, and it's describing a journey, bear with me, because I don't want to get this wrong. November 2021, and I'm hiding myself, aren't I? And I'm giving you all sorts of horrible things going on with my glasses, sorry. An inflatable dinghy carrying migrants from France to the UK capsized in the Channel, causing the death of 27 people on board. Despite receiving numerous calls for help, the French authorities wrongly told the migrants they were in British waters and had to call the British authorities for help. By the time rescue vessels arrived on the scene, all but 2 of the migrants had died. Now, although this is fictional, we know that there are people in terrible adversity. I mean, who in their right minds, unless you're absolutely desperate, would want to make this kind of journey? And I think it's really important that this issue is, you know, again and again drawn to our attention. And what better way than to do it through fiction? So yeah, I really look forward to seeing the take on this. It's by Vincent Delecroix, and I'm guessing that he's a French author, although I don't think it actually, yeah, he is. Yeah, really looking forward to that one too. It looks like it might be quite a quick but traumatic read. I'll have to be in the right frame of mind for that one, I think. And then this is a book that I treated myself to because Simon's gone on and on and on about this, my son Simon Savage. A Little Trickerie by Rosanna Pike. Wonderful cover. So, you know, why wouldn't you? Absolutely raucous, vividly alive, according to India Night. Born a vagabond, Tib Ingleby has never had a roof of her own. Her mother has taught her that if you're not too bound by the big man's rules, there are many ways a woman can find shelter in this world. But now her ma is gone. As she journeys through the fields and forests of medieval England, Tib discovers that there are people who will care for her as well as those who mean her harm. And there are a great many others who are prepared to believe just about anything. I really love the sound of this. It sounds like a wonderful sort of historical romp. Yeah, I think that's going to be something that will sustain me through the winter months. And believe it or not, oh gosh, sorry, I just kicked the what's it called? The stand that the phone's on. There is a word for it and I can't think of it now. Anyway, put it on the wobble. So I've got a book here that a friend has lent me, which I'm very much looking forward to reading because I am off next year at some point to Vietnam and Cambodia. So my wonderful friend Jan has read and recommended to me and lent me The Mountain Sing by Nguyen Phan, and it's covering up the rest of this person's name. And I don't know whether this is a woman or a man because I'm not familiar with Vietnamese language. Does it say? I don't know. It doesn't. Oh, where's the information about the author? She's female. She was born in Vietnam in 1973 and grew up witnessing the war's devastation of her country. So basically, the reason that my friend Jan lent this to me was because she thought it would help me to understand the context of the recent history of the country that I was visiting. So it starts in Hanoi in 1972. As war breaks out in Vietnam, 12-year-old Huang clings to her grandmother in an impoverished shelter as American bombs fall all around them. So this is a piece of historical fiction, but also told through the eyes of somebody who witnessed, you know, it's witness testimony as well, isn't it? Opera obviously really liked it from the looks of it. Ocean Vuong really liked it. One family, 2 generations of women and a war that will change their lives forever. I think that sounds utterly brilliant. Very much looking forward to that. And then finally, and this is a really heavy tome. So last week I was visiting my lovely brother, and we went to a National Trust property called Sizug, which was fantastic, a really interesting place. And I found this, and it's called A Place in the Hills by Michelle Paver. Now, I had not heard of this book at all, and I adore Michelle Paver. She wrote a whole series of books for children, which I read to my youngest two. Called it starts with a book called Wolf Brother, and then takes that. Oh, it's absolutely. I mean, I really enjoyed reading it as an adult. Real adventure story, but beautifully, beautifully written and set in a kind of almost primeval world. And so she does, I know she's really good at writing sort of about the past. And I read Wakenhurst, which is like a sort of gothic novel that she brought out a few years ago, but I hadn't heard of this one. And this is called A Place in the Hills. I think I might have already said that. I'm not so sure I like the cover very much. It's extremely heavy because it's a large print version, so I might actually be able to read this without my glasses, which I'm quite looking forward to. But this is a story, I think it's like a romance, an adventure story set in Rome, or it's about the Romans. I think it might be Roman Britain, actually. Oh no, it is Rome. In the splendour and savagery of ancient Rome, Cassius, the greatest poet of his age, loses the only woman he ever loved. 2,000 years later, in the foothills of the Pyrenees, Antonia is driven to solve the riddle Cassius left behind. Her chance comes when she and her father, both archaeologists, excavate the sun-baked valley where Cassius lived and died. This is a heartbreaking, heartwarming story of what Antonia found and of all that followed. For Antonia, there is a chance, one final chance, to undo the mistakes of the past and to solve the age-old, all-pervading mystery that binds past and present together. I think that sounds great. And again, I think a really good book to curl up to on long winter evenings. But knowing me, I'll probably get round to reading this in, I don't know, April 2028. But there we are. So what a fantastic, look at that tower of books I have there at my side. Just feel always, so very grateful that I'm able to acquire so many books. And yeah, really looking forward to those. So what purchases have you made this month? What loans have you had from the library? What books have you been gifted or recommended? Please let me know. I hope you enjoyed that. And I think I have to be quite honest with you that there is another stack of books over in that corner that I just haven't got the heart to go through right now, because I've also got some more new books. But I think maybe I'll hold off telling you about those till next month, because I think that's just about right for today. Anyway, take care, everybody. Happy reading. Bye.